You. What's going on, family? How are you? 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 What is going on the strip? Hope everyone's doing wonderful. You're tapping in here a little bit later than usual. Maybe a recording. You can skip ahead to the part where I'm sharing my screen, but just always want to give people enough time to get up in here, settle in. Let me hear from you in the chat if you're able to. And I'll give a rundown of how this Stock Summer Sunday goes. So, welcome everybody. My name is Dr. B. I'm a holistic life and business coach and strategist for entrepreneurs and trader. And I guess you can say content creators that you'll love when you jump on socials. If you see some different content on there, just set to inspire people. And this is just a skill set that I have that I thought and I was called to share. So, been doing this Stock Summer Sunday now for I don't know how long. You can go back and look in the, um, the albums, but it's been serving pretty well. All right. If you want to join the Discord, I'll go and get that out the way. You're more than welcome to down below. People have stayed in here on the free YouTube for a month or so or longer and said, hey, man, I like the information you're giving. I've tried it out myself. It's worked. And I joined and wanted to just learn a little bit more. I do not just do a trading Discord where you just do signals and all that kind of stuff. I'm teaching in there while I am live trading. And I really want to implore and have people learn, right? I want people to be able to take their own trades, also be able to analyze stock charts, and be able to invest on their own accord, right? You shouldn't have to rely on anybody. We're just here on these free platforms to deliver knowledge and provide a case study to be able to go and say, that's interesting. I want to try that on my own. I want to see if that works. And then develop your own strategy of how you want to be an investor into the stock market. So let me know where you're tuning down from below, and we'll get started here in the next couple of minutes. I always like to give a little bit of a buffer, a little bit of a buffer, a little bit of a buffer. All right, we got to get our key light back up over here because a little bit of that shadow. Got natural light coming in from this way. I need to balance it out from this way. So I did move and do office setup. So the vibe board's back there. I need to get on that. I'll probably be doing that on the course or in the community, just teaching, go into my coach mode. All right, so yeah, cool. Hopefully everyone's Labor Day weekend was great. Right into Monday, we had a short week. I'm going to give you the rundown of this YouTube video and this Stock Service Sunday. So if you've never been here before, welcome. We typically stay in here for roughly about an hour 15, trying to make it shorter and shorter every time the more people come. But I know we have newcomers every time. We have people inviting new people and say, hey, you should check this dude out. You may have found me from just clicking on a video. Maybe you saw the unemployment thing, whatever it was. So we typically go through our fundamental analysis. So our fundamental analysis is where we go over the news, the data from the past week, the data that we have that is going to be coming into the market this week is going to affect the movement of the market, right? Every data point that we have typically allows the Fed to decide how much to cut rates, whether to pause rates, whether to hike rates, right, and how the state of the economy is doing. So that affects the market, right? But in the stock market, when we trade, we're not necessarily trying to predict what's happening. We react, and that's the difference of the psychology of a trader and an investor. More so, a trader is that you react to the data and the news, right? Versus trying to say, "Ooh, I know exactly what's going to happen." Right? We have history that repeats itself, and then we can conclude from there. All right. I know the Ravens game's on, the Bills game's on. People were like, "Man, Brian, trust me, I know it's right. It's prime time, football time, so I definitely understand." All right. So I'm gonna say welcome. I'm gonna get right to it. All right. Cool. Without further ado, let's jump into the charts and our fundamental analysis, and we'll get up out of here so y'all can watch some football. Maybe you got me on the side. I'm not sure. All right. Economic data. Cool. Share. And also let me know down in the chat if everything's coming in clean. Everything's coming in clean, sound, all those good things. Make sure people can hear me clearly. Right, I know some people are like, hey Brian, I've been talking for this long, I don't know what you're saying. Right, so let me know down below. I'll be checking that periodically. All right, cool. All right, let's go. U.S. economic calendar. This is our fundamental analysis. If you're new, as always, take note of how we are analyzing the markets from the fundamentals to the technicals, which are the charts, and how we come up with a conclusion of how the week might play out. All right. So we'll get the U.S. economic calendar here, and if you see the title of this, will the unemployment data hinder this new all-time high? We don't know. That's just a question that's in play. Okay. If you don't know, the unemployment data, the NFP or non-farm payrolls report came out on Friday of last week. That data report showed that more people are still filing for unemployment. The job market is still a little bit shaky. And if you know, you know, right? You can have credentials out the wazoo and people are still struggling to find jobs, right? And even to keep jobs because there's so much turnover and new graduates are coming out at the age of 21, 22, 23, and still having a tough time finding entry level jobs with 3 years of experience, right? What are we talking about here? Okay, so that is the thing that is in question is how the labor market is doing. And it doesn't mean that the market is going to take, it doesn't mean that it's going to pull back. It just means that once we get up on the charts, you saw what happened if you were paying attention to the market, that we spurred a new all-time highs and then we took it all back, right? And that's the kind of sentiment of what happened after NFP on Friday. Just spurred higher with projections that we would do well, and it did not, and they sold it off because it was a little uncertain. Now, this week we have CPI and PPI. Typically, CPI comes out before PPI. So, if you haven't been trading or in the stock market actively for a while, right, you wouldn't necessarily know that, but typically CPI comes out on Wednesday and PPI comes out on Thursday. So CPI is going to be that, I just say that forerunner, right? That king and the queen on the chessboard. So you have CPI and then you have PPI. Okay, CPI is consumer price index. PPI is producer price index. CPI, as I'm a teacher and a coach, I just go into a little explanation so people understand. CPI is the consumer price index, meaning that how our prices of our goods as consumers are doing, right? When we go out and we spend on gas and groceries and so on and so forth, how are those prices doing? Producer is just think manufacturing. So when a company buys their products, buys their products and things that they need for their business, how are those prices doing? So consumer, business. All right, so PPI will give us a little bit of a sentiment, and then we come into CPI on Thursday, September 11th, and then we have a consumer sentiment preliminary there, and I think on Tuesday we have the non-farm payrolls, like revisions. So that should be interesting. So all week we're having data that's coming out, and this is important more so for traders, investors. If you are just a buy and hold person, that mindset is different. So I always relay that every time I do a stock sermon Sunday is a buy and hold investor has a different mentality than a trader. Okay, a trader is looking at data in and out, day to day, week to week, and even month to month. A long-term investor is looking more so quarter to yearly, right? Okay, my portfolio's down, maybe, a month or a quarter, it'll recover. What are y'all freaking out about? And that's kind of this mindset I'm switching in people is when I say things could pull back, it's like, Brian, it'll be fine, it'll go back up. Like, yeah, but as a trader, we need to know if it's coming down this week or going up. Right? So that mindset is completely different, and everyone in Leverage University is starting to understand that. And I think people that come on to my channel or any other channels are starting to understand that as they come from just buying in their Roth IRA, 401k to understanding when the market shifts, right? So there's the economic data. Let's see what we have on the docket for earnings. Starting to wrap up. This earnings season has been a great earnings season. A lot of bullish momentum for sure. Okay. And let's go here. And we've got on the docket Oracle. I put that in our community. Oracle is holding up some key support right now. That is a major mover right there. So I'll watch out for Oracle. Chewy. Everyone loves their dogs. Chewy should move. Kroger, stable company. Everyone's gonna be putting their eyes on GameStop. I'm not. If you want to know GameStop levels, I will, but I'm not a GameStop trader. I can do the technical analysis, but I'm not on the bandwagon of GameStop personally. Anything else here that I naturally trade day in and day out? Nothing else like Adobe pay attention to. I don't really trade that, but it is a good mover. So main thing this week is going to be Oracle, trading that on Wednesday morning. We're watching it throughout the week. Chewy watching it that Wednesday morning, and then maybe Kroger could be an easy, nice, slow trade after it reports. Okay. Cool. Let's jump on to my favorite place. And before we do, if you have any questions, thoughts, perspectives, you're more than welcome to share it in the chat. I always answer chat questions. I interrupt the programming to answer those chat questions just to get them out of the way and to also teach with those chat questions. So if there's anything that comes up, I'll take a little break, answer some chat questions, and go from there. All right. Cool. Let me check chat right now. Make sure we're good. The mic is messed up. Interesting. Huh? This mic is messed up this whole time. Are you serious? Huh? Um,
Wow. Wow, wow, wow. Are y'all kidding me? Are you kidding me? Did that sound like a little mouse or something? Did that sound like a little mouse? Y'all can get your laughs in now. Get your laughs in now. Get your laughs in now. Oh my goodness. Trent, how we doing? How we doing? Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. All right. Are we good now? Like, what is this dude sounding like, man? That's crazy. Cool. I'll be checking. I think we're good. I think we're good. I think we're good. You're like, yo, you sound like yourself again. Anybody new coming on here, y'all are like, what the heck did he just do? All right, let's keep it moving. Let's keep it moving. Trent, we good? We good? We good? All right. I think we're good. All right, everybody. Apologize for that. Let's jump into it. So if that was hard to stomach, I'm going to go back over this really, really quickly. I do apologize. We got PPI, we got CPI on the docket. We got consumer credit. We've got a revision for the non-farm payrolls. The unemployment data last week was a little bit shaky. And then we've got consumer sentiment on Friday. Next week is that big week where we got FOMC, okay? That rate decision that everyone has been paying attention to, that we're going to be promised rate cuts, rate cuts, rate cuts. My question really is, has the rate cuts been priced in already, right? Have the rate cuts been priced in already? And that's the big, big question, all right? So let's jump into the charts and go from here. So I'm going to analyze SPY and go over some notable names. All right, so we're going to start off on the SPY monthly chart here, since we started off a new month of September, which is very interesting because this month is still bullish as of right now, okay? Usually September is more of a bearish month, as you can see right here, September into October right there of 2023. This was a election year, so I wouldn't really count that. There's a little bit of a sell-off, maybe right there, all right? But it got bought back up. And then 2022 was more of a bear market anyways. So this 2025 run right here continuously from this bull flag pullback from April, right, has been running, and we are up significantly from lows all the way up here of 35%. All right. So as we know, the market typically brings us a return of roughly 8 to 12% on an average year. We've been producing returns in the stock market of 20 to close to 30%, right? Over the last couple of years. And this is overextended above that area. So since we had a low mark, and if I were to pull it from here, which are the beginning of the year, if you're talking about like if you bought at the beginning of the year, if I just ran it from here, right, we're up roughly 14%. So that's more of an accurate return right there. If you bought at the lows or bought at the beginning of the year, right, you're up 14% if you bought here and you didn't buy there. Okay. So up about 14%, up about 35, 36% from the lows if you bought the dip all the way in April. All right. This monthly candle, if we analyze it here and we start analyzing each candle close, we have a candle close of last month of 645.19 at that candle bar close at the top. If we start marking this candle bar low here, right, we have a bar low of 637 of this new candle here. If we mark the top end range of the previous candle from July, right, we have 639. Okay. So if I'm marking these zones, these are now support zones because we're in a bull market. Okay. So when I go down on my lower time frames, you'll see those ranges and them being bought up in those ranges. So we're holding previous highs, forming higher lows, higher lows, higher lows, higher highs, higher highs, higher highs. And we are now forming another higher high slightly at that 647 where we're sitting right now. Okay. Now, one key thing which happened on Friday is we tried to close that week out above that 650 level, but we looked above and we failed it. Okay. So that previous monthly high was right at 649.40. So that is serving as resistance for right now. So what we want to really watch for this week is, do we hold this previous candle close high right here, which is right around that 645? And when I go into my weekly time frame, you'll see why that's key as well, is because these are previous highs, and they're serving as support. Okay. So right now we are still very bullish. Okay. Now, the concern is that the unemployment data was a little bit poor. That's the only concern right now, because as you're seeing, when we pull back, the dips are getting bought up. Okay. But we've still got to be aware that we are sitting at all-time highs in uncharted territory where the SPY and the overall market has never been. Okay. So if I go down to my daily time frame here, you can see it again. I'll turn on my moving averages in a second, my 20, my 100, my 50, and so forth. Now that these lines are still here, as you can see, I'll move this over slightly. You can see exactly where it's lined up at that 645, where buyers are sitting. Previous support right there, balled up right there. Previous resistance got held. A lot of interaction around this 645 level. Okay. So that is serving where buyers are wanting to hold that level up. Okay. Now, we do have somewhat of a balance range. If we mark the lows down here at 634 to this 645. So if you see this balance range here, if I mark it in gray, it looks like that. Okay. I drag it over. So this was a consolidation balance range, back and forth, come up above it, look back, write it back into the balance range, come back out of the balance range, and now holding the top of it. Okay. So when we get out of balance ranges, the market tries to hold that level up to continue higher. Okay. Now, the only interruption that we have is that we have CPI and PPI. Okay. That's really the only interruption. And we've got FOMC next week. However, if we remember from the previous weeks, right, the Fed from Jackson Hole and with Powell talking about dovish / bullish sentiments, he's projecting that, hey, we're gonna cut the rates. We don't know how much. People are projecting 0.25. Some people are projecting a little bit higher. But the key thing is the reaction of the rates. Everyone wants rate cuts, right? If we have the right rate cut, the market's going higher, okay? And we will have a bullish September, and we may have a little bit of a take profit into October so they can buy it up into the end of the year. But this is looking very similar to kind of that, bullish run we had into the election last year. It's just not stopping, not really giving us that deep pullback other than right here at the end of July into August. Right there, that was a pretty good pullback that we were able to really buy up. And if we look at it, I believe it was roughly a 3%. Okay, so a really healthy pullback there. Typically, a pullback I'm looking for on a daily time frame is 3 to 5%. We know a correction is above 10. Okay, so that 3 to 5% pullback, if we see it from here, from the highs, if this is the high and we get that 3 to 5% pullback, that pulls us back to the equal lows of the balance range right there. Whoops. See if I can move this out of the way. Yeah, right there. If you see that percentage at the top, 2.66%. So anywhere in that 640 range or that 634 equal lows will produce somewhat of a higher low, and that still could be a deep pullback to ride it back up. Okay, so that's definitely a possibility. We've gotten yanked down before and ripped right back up, but it's still producing higher lows. Right there, right there, right there. And if we get anywhere back in this 636 to 640 range, back in that zone, that still produces a higher low. Now, bulls would probably be more comfortable holding it at that 640 level because that's a big previous high right there, right, that they had it. And that would create a nice pullback level at that 640 range, okay? So all that being said, if you are a SPY trader, if you are in the futures market or you're in Forex and you trade the S&P 500, right, and we're looking at SPY, I'd really pay attention to two things if you're a bull. If you're a bull, I would pay attention to a hold and a pullback of that 645, okay? Hold and a pullback to that 645 right there, which is we're sitting on. If we hold that, right, then that could be a really nice pullback to try to rotate back up right here. All right, and it would look something like that. Okay. And you can see that happening, right? Just double bottom, hold, rotate, start holding, building higher lows, rotate right back to 650. Okay. So that's one scenario for bulls. The second scenario is if we continue with the weakness because maybe people take some more profits into these big data points, I'd watch for something like this, back down into roughly 640, see if that holds, and then we rotate right back up. And you can see that, right? Looks very similar. Rotate, pull back, rotate, pull back, rotate. Okay. So those are the two levels that I would look at for bulls. If you are a bear or you like the bearish scenario or like shorting the market at these all-time highs, I'd look for two things. One is a failure underneath really this 645. See if we can get a push into new lows and then find a lower high like that at 645 and then take out an equal low and then take it down to 640. Okay. That could be a little scalp back down. Okay. Another one could be saying, okay, I don't want to, chase new lows. I'd rather it rotate back up, show me a little resistance, show me a fail, maybe a head and shoulders, and then we do it like that. Okay. Same thing. You see it, pull back, rotate a little bit higher, roll over, lower high, down. All right. So those are two scenarios that I would play on the bear side or shorting the market. Okay. All right. So is everyone good on SPY or the S&P 500? For my futures traders in the market, if I look at ES, we're sitting at a very key level here at 6,500. Very key psychological level at 6,500. And then we've got some lows that are holding very well at that 6,450. Okay. That 6,450 is holding. And then that 6,500, and we're trying to just rotate back up. right? So that's kind of what's happening right now, just forming higher lows, rotating back up. So the key is really, do we take out new highs or do we set a trap again and roll over? Okay. So there was a big trap on Friday. The reason why the move was so massive is because there were orders that were probably sitting up here, people chasing this type of candle, right? Which looks bullish, right? That's a reclaim, taking it out, closes strong, and people enter on that break of that 65.30. When they break that 65.30 into new highs, that's technically a signal waiting for that. They enter, trying to get a squeeze higher, they get trapped, and then we fail back below the highs, fail that, and then their stop losses get hit, right? So that produced that drastic kind of gap fill reversal, but now we're holding. So anytime I see a big kind of, if you want to call it an engulfing candle, any type of, trap reversal like that, I really want to see how this grind back up goes, because what happens is it could be somewhat of a grind bear flag for lower, right? So sometimes it rotates back to the highs. Other times it traps, right? Grinds, and then fails back below, fails, takes out that low, and then maybe continues lower, right? So I really want to watch what this does when it grinds higher, because that was such a massive sell or trap on Friday. Okay. So bulls are definitely paying attention to that, because they're like, oh, I tried to take it higher, breakout trade, didn't work. Okay, I might want to be a little bit careful. Taking it back up here, another breakout trade, I might want to wait for lower. Okay. All right, so that's my SPY analysis. So I always have that in the back of my head on what SPY is doing. Two scenarios. If it pushes higher, I'm gonna watch. If it breaks out, or if there's some exhaustion, cool, we can come back down. If it's a big breakout, cool. I mean, we're going higher, right? There's still that possibility of doing something like that. And it's like, okay, we're going to 6,600, right? On ES, and on SPY, there'll be roughly that 655 level, and then 660, right? So that's what I'm watching, and it's just a little bit skewed because of the September timeframe that we're in, right? That we're extremely bullish the first week in September, but we have a lot of data points that my question is, are we trapped? Like, are we trapping? Are we going to get that pullback? All those things. Yep, I'm going to talk about hood. Yep. All right. Cool. Let's jump into QQQ. QQQ weekly chart. Still bullish, as you can see. Bought up pretty much an equal high here, right at that 576 level, which I told you guys last week that 576 was going to be very, very key, because we looked above, failed back below it, looked above, failed back below it. All right. So yes, we got a big wick right there. We got some buyers that step back in, but it needs to reclaim back above this I would say 578 level, back above that high, and then take out a nice candle above that 577. So that right there, to me, is a little bit more of a look above, fail, and we shall see where we go from here. Okay. And if you look after hours, how we're looking, do you see it fail back below it? And we're kind of sitting below that line I just marked. So we got to reclaim that to rotate back up. Otherwise, we're going to potentially try one more time, fail, and then start rotating back down to that 570 and that 567 again. Okay. 570, 567. Kind of want to mark it a little bit more like that. Okay. That's a better level, 567. And then there's some buyers sitting at 568. Okay. All righty. Tesla wants to cross 367. Yep, we'll go over Tesla too. Appreciate you, Tanvir. All right. All righty. Let's go over IWM. IWM wants rate cuts. That's why it's holding so well. IWM, RTY, small caps, they want rate cuts. They want to break into new highs. They want to go to 250, right? And if we get rate cuts, IWM is going to be the first one to start pumping, okay? So IWM, I loved it until it had this big breakout above this balance range here. You see that balance range we were talking about for a while, which is right there, that 220 to 226 level. You can see it over here, just balancing right there. And then it breaks above it. And then it just really never gave me a chance to get into this on this candle right here. I would have rather it pull back to 230, which it did. I like a deeper pullback when I get a straight up move like that, but it's really not giving that. People are just holding their position and it's giving those higher lows, higher highs, and it's in this channel. Okay. So IWM, I don't like trading it that close to all-time highs right there. It's got to give me either a pullback or a break above. I like trading IWM, but I don't like it this close to all-time highs right there. But it is very strong. So I draw this channel IWM to see it's one of my beautiful kind of rising wedge bullish channels, trying to see if it continues in this channel or does it break trend. All right. Cool. Let's go to our notable mentions here. Let's go to our Mag 7 primarily. Our Amazon trade looked good on Friday and last week on this rotation back up. I signaled in our community that we were going to be looking, and we were actually in Amazon calls for 227.5 calls right here. We entered right there, right? And some people had to stop out because maybe it would have gone down these equal lows. It got bought back up at the end of the day. I made some profit. And then the next day, it gave another entry. And then after hours, it gave the move. I was like, really? After hours, it gives the move. So sometimes your trade plays out after hours, more specifically in options. And that's the, thing that maybe futures traders don't like, is that options you cannot trade after the hours of the New York session. All right. So there is a gap on Amazon right here. As you can see, if it takes out that low of 230, that previous low in the gap, we're going to start pushing back to that 227. I'm more of a believer that I like gap fills personally before rotating back up. So if it can push down like that and then show some type of hold above this 227, then we can rotate back up to the highs. All right. Now, if we fail and we continue lower like that, and it's pretty aggressive, then, we could come down to some of these lows again, equal lows, 220, so on and so forth. All right. So I'm going to be watching Amazon this week to see if it, gives some type of pop and fail. If it gives a little pop into that previous high, double tops at 235, 236, then I will look at some puts on Amazon back down because that gap is there. All right. So Amazon is a trade I will be watching for this week. Google, I did enter into a little bit of a starter. Okay. Just being transparent on our YouTube, in our community, I did enter into a little bit of a starter position, just a very small position of Google puts. All right. And my rationale for that, because I always have a rationale for entering, and it kind of gave a couple of my confluences. I'm a little bit early because it didn't give me my trend break. One of my top A+ trades are rising wedges, and I wait for that break of trend, wait for a lower high, and then I enter, and it gets that rotation all the way back down to some of these equal lows. Okay. As you can see, Google has not really broken trend. Here's how it would look if you're a visual person. Okay. That's when I start entering, right? When I see that break of trend, I wait for a retest. I see it like that. That's where I'm entering, right? Then I can take it down like this. That's how the trade looks. Okay. So as you can see, Google is still rising and rising and rising, but I think it can be a pretty big trade, and I will stop out of it if it starts pressing higher and squeezing and squeezing and squeezing and wants to go to 240, right? I may stop out of that 240. That's where my stop loss is looking like it's going to be, around 240, depending on what the week does tomorrow. If it grinds higher into 240, I might give it a little bit of time on Monday, but I may stop out, re-enter, and just wait for data, right? But if it starts rotating tomorrow, then the trade, should work out. Maybe it gives a little bit of a pullback in the morning, rotates back down, then I'm getting my trade working. Okay. So Google, there is no rationale for shorting this. If you are a person that doesn't necessarily, not in the market on a day in and day out basis, this is a very strategic trade that I see a gap fill. I see an extremely extended RSI, right? And I'm also seeing a MACD that if I see that MACD rotating, which I already saw on a 4-hour rotating, if that can start crossing, right, then that trade will start working in my favor. Okay, so I have a couple of confluences. If I have some more seasoned traders on here that are seeing this trade and are looking at, I can see some Google puts, right? And it would look very similar to Amazon, right? You see Amazon rising and rising into a top end resistance, getting exhausted right here, dropping a little bit pre-market, then dropping the next day. All right, so that's how the trade, would technically look. Okay. All right, so we'll see what happens tomorrow on Google in a little bit of starter position on it, very light size. I will add to it if I see more confirmation, but I am looking for Google to start rotating back down at some point. All right, it could be at 240. It wants to squeeze and give me a big signal like this, back down. Right, that's what I'm looking for. Okay, so I like trading Google personally. I think it could be a massive trade back down through this gap fill once it gives the signal. That's a massive move. I mean, even if I do a Fibonacci retracement from 240 back to these lows, right? A 50% retracement or a 38.2 retracement will be back down to roughly 220. Okay. Full gap fill back down to 215. I know a lot of traders are looking for that deeper pullback back to about 200, right? But that with this type of candle breakout here, we've got to have some signals. All right. So Google, if you're a extreme Google bull and you're like, which I am, I've been calling Google out bullish for the last, all 2025. If you've been listening to these Stock Sermon Sundays in our community, I'm like, Google's a sleeper. Google's a sleeper. Buy it at 160, buy it 170, buy it where it drop down to 140 in April. Like Google's going to fill the gap back to 200 plus and it's done it already. Now it's overextended, it needs to pull back. And I'm looking for when that day is. Okay. So Google, keep an eye on it. It is extremely bullish and it will start giving that signal soon. All right, Apple. Here's the same type of trade idea. You see, I've drawn it out already. Look what kind of trade Apple is looking at. You see this rising wedge, big bullish breakout here on that Google Apple news. Rising, gives that kind of sell signal right there a little bit. Now it's still in this channel if I draw the channel down to there, but I do like that signal right there, which is more of a sell signal. And if it can rotate back down, we should start seeing a candle. If we can get a 30-minute candle down like that, retest, and then rotating back down to those 235 lows. Okay. Big retest will be back down to this 233. All right. So that is how my trade typically looks and rotates back over. Okay. So Apple, same type of trade idea as Google, it's just which one breaks. Amazon has already kind of broken and we shall see. Okay. Now, for anyone who debunks these or doesn't like shorting the market, I always make a caveat that if you only see upside, right, I implore you to wait for a reaction on these pullbacks. When you have a straight up move, right, very low liquidity, there's very low volume, it just straight up to a target. It typically has an equal move back down. And then if it's bullish, it holds that level, then it rotates right back up. Okay. So Amazon could hold this 232 level, but it does have a gap, as I said before, back down to this 227 to 225 level. All right, Microsoft. Moving average right there at that daily 20 and daily 50 level at that 511. Could not get back above it. Sellers stepped in. Microsoft has some buyers down here where it's sitting at about 490. Holds that 490, could rotate back up to 500. But if the market is a little bit weak, I am watching that 500 level as a pivot point for Microsoft. I know Tanvir's like, you've been talking about shorting Microsoft forever. I can never find an entry. I could never find an entry on Microsoft on shorting it. I think this one was a good one. I always trade around that daily 20 and daily 50, but I really wanted Microsoft to kind of rotate a little bit higher like this, right? And that's where my short entry was going to be, like closer to those previous high failures. And it just never did it. Popped one time lower, popped one time lower, and just, it was in support sitting right here at 510, 511, got underneath it and just never gave me an entry. So I'll wait on Microsoft to either pop higher to short it or just wait for it to pull back into this 465 level there at previous highs and see what it does. Meta, nothing really to say here other than it broke a little rising wedge. This is a perfect example. Look at this. This is a perfect example of how a rising wedge looks with a gap fill. What I just talked about with Google, right? There's a big gap that was right here from earnings. You see that? It's blank. Big gap right there. Rising, 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 rising. Gets up at the top of the wedge, breaks it. That's the entry. There's a rotation. Okay. All right. So my Meta, I probably rather it pop back up in this 780, fill that gap, and then rotate it back down, but not really interested. Tesla, here you go, Tanvir. Tesla, from a weekly time perspective, you can see here, it's at a very pivotal point. Okay. Tesla's at resistance around that 360 level, but it is bullish because it's broken out of this little consolidation, forming higher lows. As you can see, rotating back up. And as Tanvir said, Tesla is trying to get to that 380 retest and trying to get to 400. It's trying. Needs a little help from the market. Okay. Needs a little help from the market, because what can happen, right? If I take that off right there, is Tesla could double top and fail. Right? You just never know. There's a gap right back up there to 400. So I just never want to be a part of traps, especially if there's a gap right here. I've seen it before where it grinds, double tops, fails that, and comes back down. Okay. So we need to watch what Tesla does, because it is not officially broken out of new highs, and it's just kind of consolidating in this rotation. Right? Now, I will say that into the end of the year. So the last 3 months of the year, October, November, December, the market is typically very bullish. Crypto is very bullish. Tesla, typically a big holder of Bitcoin, as you know, is also bullish. Just remember the election last year. So as Tesla consolidates, we're just trying to find where the deeper pullback is going to be on Tesla. Is it going to give us one more kind of pull back into this 330 level or something else? But as long as it holds these highs right here, 330, it is still very bullish right there. Okay. So if you're a Tesla bull or you're trading Tesla more specifically, I would say, just watch it in this zone. I haven't really been liking it with this kind of pop, back down, pop, back down, maybe another pop, back up. It's trying to get to that 360 in the short term. So you can get a nice $10 move on Tesla if you do trade it. And watch that 340 level as a pullback for entry. It looks something like this. Pull back that 340 and rotate back up. All right. Let's go into Hood. Everyone's talking about it. Let's go into Hood. Hood has gotten news that it is entering the S&P 500 in replacement, not in replacement, but I think is it replacement of MSTR? Oh, exclusion. Yeah, exclusion. Okay. So it is replacing MicroStrategy. Okay. Is that exclusion? After missing out. Okay. So it just missed out on inclusion. Okay. Just missed out. It didn't get kicked out, just missing out on entering. So we got AppLovin and we got Robinhood, and that's where that pop is. Now, if you're a trader, my Leverage University members know, or if you are a seasoned trader, you know what this means when we get this pop after hours. That means there's going to be a gap. Okay. Now, was this already priced in? We don't know, because This is one of two things. This is either a bull flag, right? And we're breaking out back to the highs like that, or we're going to fail. And I've been watching this kind of head and shoulders. Right? So I'm going to be having my eyes on Robinhood. We have grown to love Robinhood inside the community, trading it. Big trade on Friday on it. It made a $10 move like nothing. Popped up to 106, gap failure all the way back to 195, got bought up. That was support, right? And then you got the news, popped, right? So how I'm going to look at my hood this week is one of two things. I'm still going to trade it based off of the technicals. So mark your technicals on Robinhood, which is right here at that 108 level, okay? Do not get trapped up here. You can already see it popping, failing back under. There's still some resistance right there. 108 to 110. You see it? Right there, fail, right there, big fail. And then right over here is a lot of sellers, even into that 111, 110 area. So if I mark all of that red, that is a heavy resistance area. So a lot of the times the news can be good, but it's like, oh, we already knew that. Right? I think Robinhood, that was being talked about back in here when we had that big pump. So that's what I'm watching. And if I get rid of this, I'm like, man, okay, cool. Everyone's pumping Robinhood, think it's going to go higher, but I'm looking at the technicals. I'm like, until it breaks and holds and I be patient with it, it's still bullish. But in the short term, can I scout the downside and we trap buyers back up here? Do y'all see it? Can you give me a 1 in the chat? Do you see it? So we'll look at it tomorrow to see what it does. All right. See what it does. It's kind of in this channel again. There's some support right around that 101, 102. All right. 101, 102 on Robinhood. And it's kind of in this, channel again. So Robinhood, I like back at roughly around 101 to 102. To step back in for buyers. If it's up in this 110, it needs to break out above 112 first before entry. Okay. So if you're a bull and you're like, Brian, don't change my thesis on this, I was already bullish. All right, that's good news. Then I would look for this. Just be patient, pop, something like that. Okay. Now, what we do sometimes in the community, if I see a pop a little higher like that, and I see a fail, then I'll take the downside, pulling it back. All right. I'll take the puts, putting it back like that. Okay. We good? There's your Robinhood. Let's go into NVIDIA. Let me check the chat. Any questions, thoughts, perspectives? Replace SMCI. Okay, cool. Yep. Microsoft will be an epic short around 5:30. I agree. Finally, good. I bought 867 worth of CSL stock running a 20% profit. Okay, I'll check on that. Perfect. All right. Yeah, I had one of the Rodecaster things. I probably sound like a mouse, Trent, so I apologize for that. The entry of this is y'all get your laughs on. You get your laughs on. You're like, what in the world is he sounding like? All right, let's go to NVIDIA. NVIDIA is another top watch here. Another top watch because with AVGO earnings so good, most people were thinking, man, NVIDIA is going to follow a little bit higher or AMD is going to follow a little bit higher. And they trapped and they went lower, right? There was some news on Trump and whatnot, but I'm going to talk about NVIDIA first and then AMD. So NVIDIA is at a very key level. Do y'all remember last week when you were asking, I think Stefan, you were asking, like, Brian, where's a good place to buy NVIDIA? What did I say? 150? 150? How close is it to that 150? $16 off, all right? So with NVIDIA, it's key here because it is forming some rotational lower highs. Now, I'll get rid of these levels here. I want to show you something because in trading, it does not always go straight down to a level or target that we want. Okay. I'll move this down, move that down. like that. Okay. Do you see how he broke underneath this 174 level that used to be support? We broke underneath it, and NVIDIA was just consolidating underneath it. Now, what I thought personally was going to do was going to pop with AVGO, right? I didn't take a trade on it, but I was like, man, if this pops, this could be a squeeze right back to the highs. And it didn't. It formed a bear flag. Okay. So with that forming a bear flag, that shows us that, okay, NVIDIA is still a little bit weak, and now it's broken underneath these lows and it's trending lower. Okay. The next big support, you see this move straight up on NVIDIA from here to here, right? It just looks like it just grinds up like that. All right. What is that? It's a very low volume area. Okay. So that means that NVIDIA, if it can hold, I would say 160 will be that next big level. The big level that we want is down at the 150s. So this is like a pit stop right here. So until then, I would not try to personally, right, try to, bottom tick this, or, man, is now the time to buy NVIDIA? You can buy a little bit of shares if you want. But if we're trading, I don't really necessarily like this bear flag, this rotating lower, and then try to enter calls randomly right here, and then it rotates further down. We know what that looks like in the community in live trading. We've tried to do it before, and we've been better about that. And I've taught you guys better about that, as saying, hey, when we're getting falling knives, right? And everyone says, pick up the dip, pick up the dip. In trading, we need more confirmation. That's personally why I like trading the downside, is because when it gets drastic, it moves quickly, right? The squeezes are nice, right, for long-term shares, or if you're a part of a big squeeze higher, but those drops are beautiful, right? So when I'm trying to, like, man, like, do I pick up NVIDIA now for calls? I would be, it could drop another $6, right? Does everyone see that? Right, there's lower highs forming. We clearly had a top, and I don't see anything other than down to this 160 level on NVIDIA. There's a little bit of a gap down there, as you can see. So, Brian, how do I make money on it if I'm trying to trade it? I like trading NVIDIA, right? There's two ways to trade NVIDIA. Would be a pop, okay? Pop into there. Right, into 170 maybe, see if we see a failure and the market's a little bit weak, and then rotate it back down. Okay, that's a trade idea. Okay, I personally, just letting you know, my strategies change when we get in live trading, as some of y'all know, but my ideas are formulating. I have about 3 ideas of what could happen based on the trade I'm trying to take on the specific stock I'm looking at. I really like NVIDIA calls when it fills this gap back down here to 160, all right? So if we get a pop and then it rotates back down to there, that's where I like it a little bit better to rotate back up, okay? Does everyone see that? There. That'd be pretty much a big bull flag pullback back into there. Now, I really like it back where I said into that 150 if something drastic happens. Get a big scare back down into 150. Even if it pops up here and pulls down like that, that's where I really like it a little bit better, is down in that 150 and see some buyers step up, rotate back up. Okay? So be very careful if you're a NVIDIA bull trying to time the bottom, at least for right now. Okay. If you put time on your trading contracts, then yeah, it could work out if we see buyers stepping up, because guess what? It happened last time right here. Like, Brian, you were wrong. 165 support. I see that. We react. I'm not guessing. There's A+ setups, and there's kind of like, this could be a little pit stop, and it blasts right through it and goes lower. Right. So I need a little bit more confirmation of big wick stepping up, of bullish nature, of it reclaiming some levels, things of that nature. Okay. So, let me get rid of this idea on the video because I know a lot of people trade it, and go to kind of this look. Okay. It's called a reclaim. So what if it pops off of here, reclaims that 170, something like that, right? If I'll miss the bottom tick, see it pop up, hold, and then that would be somewhere in my entry. I'm like, okay, it's holding, and then we can rotate it back up, right? So that is a reclaim. That is possible as well, is that we can, this is the bottom for a short period of time, pops, and then we rotate. Okay. So watch for that reclaim of 170. See if we can close a day back above 170, something like that. And then we can maybe rotate back to like that 176, 175. Okay. I know a lot of people are looking for that 180 and 200 plus level in NVIDIA, and we'll get there, but it's just pulling back right now. AMD, 150, you can see this gap right here. It's heading into it. And AMD was another beautiful bear flags. You see this bear flags just structuring right here. We were talking about it again, right? Wasn't necessarily, expecting AMD to, do something like this with AVGO earnings being so good. Thought it was going to kind of go with it a little bit. I did not trade it or take anything of it. I presented the idea to our community saying, hey, this could pop if AVGO earnings good, and it didn't pop. It failed immediately due to that unemployment data and some, semiconductor news with Trump. Okay. So AMD giving a healthy pullback here, warranted from 76 to 186. I mean, you're $100 per share if you bought it at $80, right? So it's giving these pullbacks now. Again, same thing. We need to find where the bigger weekly and daily levels are, and the big daily level on AMD is more so back in this 140 level. Okay, 140 to 135 would be those bigger levels right around in here, right there. So if I have a big weekly level that it's approaching, you can kind of see it pulling back right there, 145 to 140. So on these weekly levels, and it's pulling back aggressively, I like to have zones. That zone right there, just need to see reactions. Previous high, 145, and you see it's heading right towards it. If I turn on the moving averages on my daily, it's below the daily 20, below the daily 50, and the daily 100 is sitting close to 135. So I would say really more so towards that level is where it's headed. So AMD back to 135 to 140. Okay. That would be your zone. Turn on your alerts of paying close attention to say, okay, do I catch this falling knife and try to just buy shares? Cool. Dollar cost average on the way down. That's fine. Shares, different mentality. Trading, watch how it reacts. We got gap fills. It could just still fall, right? For my people that are like, hey, Brian, can we take puts down? Yeah, you can take a put down if it breaks underneath 150. Take it down to 145. That could be a trade idea that we look for this week, a little quick scalp. We know there's a gap fill. We know there's confirmation. I would like a little pop first, personally, if it can. But you can see what it's looking like after hours. It's already breaking new lows, and it might just trend into it. So hopefully it doesn't do it, before we get into it. But underneath 150, easy scalp trade idea for puts down to that 145 level. All right. So take a look at that as a trade idea. If you're in our community, we'll take a look at it. If you're trading on your own, be safe. All right. MU, we took this trade for congratulations to my boy Trent. Dreama took it as well. Some other community members took it. Y'all know who you are. Trent had 145% on this trade on Friday, so shout out to him. Dreama had 50%. I took a 72% trade on this, and it was my A+ setup on a daily, or excuse me, on my day, my time frame that I look at for day trading. All right. So this was my trade, popped up, gave me that rising wedge into resistance of 130. I waited for the break right around here, started entering right around, gave 129 puts, and there it is. Like clockwork. Easy money. Took a little bit of time for it to play out, and there's the trade, right? And that was roughly 140, 150% on your money. Okay. So you do the math. If you had $1,000 in, you made $1,400. Okay. If you had $100 in, you made $145. Okay. In a matter of what, 30 minutes, if that. Now you're like, well, Brian, it was bullish. It rotated back up. In trading, I don't care about that. I don't care. All right. That's the difference. Different mentality. Okay. So guess what? Now that I know it's extremely bullish, cool. The bull train, it moved. It moved already. Now we're pushing up even higher into, guess what? A weekly resistance. So the bullish move was at 114, 115. Bull flag, pullback, bull flag. Now we're back up into this level of 135. Do I want to enter calls immediately into this 133, 135 level? You can. If you're new and you like to trade the trend and you only trade up, yeah. But watch this weekly level here. As you can see, pushes up into that 134, 135. And we still got more gap to fill back down. So if I see a look below and fail, we could take this again. So community members inside of leverage, y'all know if it fails back below 130, look above and fail. Look above, fail back below, take it back down. Okay. We'll take the same trade, put a little bit more time on it. So watch that failure back below 130. I think some of you are getting acclimated to MU, trades very nicely in the semiconductor sector. It's kind of an alternative to like NVDA. Contracts are priced very well, moves very nicely. So we'll watch that. It is extremely bullish. So you know what we do if we're trying to short a extremely bullish stock, we need to be a little bit more patient to see that that confirmation is there. But I do have a gap fill back down to a pullback of 124. Okay. Need to see that failure back below that 130. All right. Or if it pushes up in this 134, 135, I'll look at that. RSI is correlating to that as well. Relative strength index, right? Overextended on a 4 hour, right? MACD, that's 4 hours starts rotating over. 1 hour already rotating over, overextended on a 1 hour. That move should be happening pretty soon. Okay. Again, small break. If any of you are wanting to learn this information, we're wrapping up here in the next 15 minutes. You want to join Leverage University. If you like the way my teaching is and how I teach while giving levels, you're more than welcome to join. There's a 3-day trial link down below. You do not have to. You can do it on your own and whatever. But you ask any community member that, yeah, you do take losses. Yes, we do. But win ratio, if you manage your risk, our trades are winning 80 to 90% of the time. Right? It's just depending on where our entries are, where they're going, how long it takes, things of that nature. Okay. Let's see what else we got. Let me check the chat. Any questions, thoughts, perspectives? We discussed MU puts last Sunday. Those were newcomers, should join. Appreciate you, man. Dan Beer. Awesome. I appreciate you, man. Yeah, we talked about MU puts last weekend. So I tell people to come pen with paper, right? If you're going to stay on your own, which is perfectly fine. Like I said, I don't force anybody. I don't really pay attention to other people that are on this YouTube trying to promote their stuff. I just do it because it's my time, right? Like you got to pay for your time. If I show up 2-3 hours out of my day to teach people, I don't have to trade with people. I can just trade by myself, but I choose to, and that's my time. So it is difficult to live trade and also take trades and do your thing. So just asking for a little compensation. That's it. And we're talking about monthly here, not daily, not a daily fee. You know what I mean? So appreciate you all. Let's go to SoFi really quick. This is a top watch for a lot of folks. It's bull flagging and kind of consolidating up here at $25. I'm really just watching this level here because SoFi, it's made a nice move. I really think it's consolidating, waiting on the rate cuts. Right? SoFi is going to benefit from rate cuts. It is extremely bullish, but as you can see on a weekly time frame, it is starting to get up into that overbought territory. So all that means is if we get one more squeeze, right, and maybe it's trying to get to that 27, 28 level where it got to last time, or even breaking a new highs at 30, that's what a lot of investors are wanting, saying, come on, give me, if you bought SoFi back down here underneath $10, if you've got it at $6, you got it at 5, 6, 7, like you're like, yo, this looks bullish. I'm holding $30. Some people got price targets of 50, 100, so on and so forth, like Robinhood, right? That's warranted, but it's got to do it. And in the short term, we're just watching this level. This is extremely bullish on a monthly, as you can see, consolidating above these previous highs right here, and really just watching SoFi, right? I think it would be awesome to get one more deep pullback on it if possible. But as you can see, every time it has a pullback, bought back up, deep pullback, bought up, right? So it's really not giving that, but I would love, right? And I'll be ready for it. If somehow, some way, this is a trap up here and we look above, fail back below and come back like that, that'd be absolutely amazing, right? That'd be absolutely amazing to come back to somewhere around $18 to $20. That's where I've got kind of the trade idea is, see this big pullback from 18 back to 9. Can we rise a little bit higher and pull back to that 18 to 20? That'd be awesome. That'd be your buy zone. Put your alerts on for that on SoFi. If you're not already in, dollar cost average lightly, right? And if it pulls back to those levels underneath $20, load up. All right. Cool. Zoom's an interesting chart. It's kind of giving one of my rising wedges here. As you can see there, one of the rising wedges up into a top end 85 resistance. Okay. I'm not saying that Zoom can't go at $100 or whatever people are looking at it. On a weekly chart, looks extremely bullish. All right. And now's the time for anybody to ask any questions about any long-term shares or anything you have questions about for entries or whatnot. I'm just not a big proponent of chasing stocks. Right. So if you're ever seeing me on these channels, like Brian, every time we talk, you talking about something bad happening or pullbacks or, being a little bit cautious. It's like, cause I don't like chasing. All right. I'll dollar cost average, but if I see something on the charts and I'm like, it's already made its move, like Google. We're not saying Google's not going to go to $300 or whatever, but we've seen these before. They rise and they rise and they rise and rise and they take back the whole move in 2 or 3 weeks or a month or a couple months. And then you're like, dang, I should have waited for the pullback. Very similar to NVDA at 150 all the way back to $80. Right. So I'm just never a big proponent of these continuous rises, knowing that there will be a pullback. You just have to be patient. But you can always get a position to monitor it. Look at this daggone MP. I am so upset with myself on this. Tanvir, I think you pointed this one out when you asked about MP. Do y'all remember me talking about shorting MP? Like, yo, I think this thing could fill these gaps all the way back down to $30 or something like that. All right. And it went from 82.50 back down to 60, just like we talked about. Now it's slowly grinding down. I don't really like that personally. Back down into a top end support of $60 right here. So I've got a support of 50 and then 60. So I do not want to enter puts pushing down into this level because guess what? Right? It can rotate right back up. So if you're an MP person, I think Tanvir pointed this one out. I would definitely pay attention. It's getting very close to $60 where buyers are sitting. Okay. It did break trend a little bit, but it's getting very close to that $60 range. If you've been watching MP and see how it reacts there. All right. All right, we're getting into our extremely bullish setups that I'm looking at. I know a lot of people have questions about Lululemon. What do you think about that? Have you seen HIMS? Yes, I've seen HIMS. HIMS is about ready to go, okay? It's about ready to go back and rotate right back to the highs, very similar to Walmart. This is the same setup as Walmart that I gave in the community. Look at Walmart right here, pulling back to this 95 level. Let me go on a 4-hour. See that grinding down into a support, rotating right back to $100. Okay. So HIMS is doing the same thing. Grinding down, holding. If I see, or if you see, right, because I don't take every trade I call out, but if we see a pullback to roughly around, $46 to $45, right? Anywhere on this $46 to $45, right? This could be, an entry point for either shares, right? I think it's a great share buying opportunity right here. Something like that. Okay. So either above $50 on HIMS, okay, entry, taking it up to, back, putting some time on it, taking back up to $60. If you're a share trader or an equity trader and you just buy shares and hold them, right? I do think this is a good buy entry around 40 to $45. Okay. I liked it better down here into the 30s, right? Which it still could potentially get down there. But if you are a person that's looking for, like, hey, where can HIMS go? $80 to $100. $80 to $100. Back up here, taking out the highs, rotating back up. Some people are like, Brian, that further than that. I'm talking about in the short term, like $80 to $100. I'm looking at HIMS. That means that you could double up, right? Double up on your money if you entered HIMS right here for the first time. If you are a HIMS investor and you've got it below $20, you're sitting still pretty, right? Back down here. You see how it just continues to stair step, big pullback, stair step, double bottom, right? So above 50, we're good, but I would have loved to see a little pop and fail a little bit lower and then go. I was trying to get it on that trend line I think I mentioned last week, which would have been right around that $35. All right. So HIMS, I'm watching the pullback on it slightly right around this area. Turn some alerts on. You see I've got my alerts already set right here. All right at that 45, and I've got it set down here at that 42. All right, CNC still got shares at $26. Just still in a share position. Have not entered into a long-term leaps on CNC just yet until I get a little bit more confirmation. It's looking good still, but I still think leaps anywhere around this. Just think of price target on this: $40 to $50 minimally by 2027. So do with that what you please. Lululemon. This is a interesting one. This is now in share buying territory for sure. We talked about this last week. I think a lot of people had, I think Ben mentioned it, a couple other people. What do you think about Lulu? I'm like, 200's an okay level, but I like it better at 165. And that's just because of this level here. It's a little bit more confirming. So now it's sitting at 160 to 165 around this area that's more confirming. I think we've got some, Trent picked up some shares. I do not think this is a bad share area. I'd be a little bit more cautious about, leaps or entering on leaps. I kind of want to see a little bit more like consolidation, kind of like what UNH is doing. Like everyone, when UNH dropped, right, they immediately entered. UNH is another one that's looking very good, right? See how it consolidated here for a while? Set there, dropped a little bit lower, then started rising, and now it's kind of breaking out of this little wedge. It breaks above 327. It could be that time. Really wanted it to fill these gaps, but it's not doing it. So, yeah. UNH, we'll have to see. But again, I don't chase. I just wait for confirmation. It's got plenty of room. If you got shares in it, awesome. If you got leaps in it, awesome. This is easy money. Just have to be patient on it. If it's a little bit too big of a player for you as far as, options, like I said, there's CNC, there's HIMS out further. There's even Lulu out further. All right, TTD. All right, still think that is one that is, just got to be patient on. Got to be patient. Put it in 2027, summer of 2026. We'll just got to be patient. All right. Cool. All right. That's all I got. I'm trying to go watch some of this game. Can you look at CLS? Yeah. Yep. CLS. How's the game going? Who's winning? He's in manufacturing and providing hardware platforms, supply chain solutions, cloud solutions. Okay, cool. Know what sector it's in. This looks very similar to MP, right? It's already kind of made its move. When did it have earnings? July, April. When is, come on. October. Okay. So it's got earnings coming up in October. What are you trying to do with it, Stefan? Stefan, what are you trying to do with it? You just want my analysis on it? Hopefully everyone understands what that means. When anyone asks a question about a stock, all right, if you're asking someone on the street, it's like, hey, just to help, right? It's not saying it's a bad question. Can you take a look at it? What do you want me to take a look at? All right. The question should be formulated like this. Hey, Brian, I'm trying to find an entry for shares on CLS. Where do you think is a good buy zone for CLS for shares? Oh, okay. So you're looking to share, hold it, so on and so forth. Hey, Brian, I'm looking to trade CLS this week. Do you have a trade idea that I can look at for puts or calls on CLS? Can everyone give me a 5 in the chat? Does that make sense? That's just to help. Okay, cool. Cool. Does that help? Because I think that's what most of us have grown up doing. Like, we just ask someone that knows about stocks, like, hey, what do you think about the market? I get that all the time when I'm just, around people that know that I trade. It's like, what do you think about the market? I'm like, what are you trying to do? Like, I can give you a general synopsis. Are you trading? Are you trying to buy shares? Do you have a 401k? What are you trying to do? You know what I mean? And that's not a fault of anyone else. I think we've just not been taught, none of us, including myself. We've just not been taught of like the different ways you can participate in the market. Okay. So, little caveat there. I appreciate you, Chris. Yeah. So Chris, if you were, obviously in the market, if you've been in it for a while, or if you're just trying to, there's seasoned investors that have millions of dollars in their 401k, multiple 6 figures, and are still like, I don't know how to read a chart. So I appreciate anyone comes on here that either in agreement with me, or that's like, yo, I'm learning something and I'm older than you, or I'm more seasoned, or whatever it might be. Right. So I appreciate that. Let's look at CLS. So I'll analyze it from 2 perspectives. So he said from the short term. Okay. So that means that, I'm reading the question again. I bought at the start of the week and running 20%. Should I wait or just take the profit? Okay. Great question. So Stefan is at 20% profit on his shares. Okay. And he bought shares at the beginning of last week. So that means he bought shares roughly at about $200 average cost. Okay. If this is his first time buying in, because I'm on a weekly time frame, this is a weekly candle here. It started off the week at the beginning of the week on Tuesday, start of a new month at 187, and damn near went $100, right? So that is a massive move. And what do? We don't chase and we don't get greedy. Okay. So what I would say, depending on what Stefan's, goal is, I would say that you bought at the all-time highs. Okay. There's an overextended RSI on a monthly. There's a weekly RSI that is a little bit high here as well. The RSI, for those that don't know, are coming in late, relative strength index. It means that it's either overbought or oversold. You can see this caution zone. It's kind of in relative to where it is now. Look what happened last time on the chart, that it was in a caution zone at roughly 80 on the RSI. It pulled from 135 back down to $50. Okay. It doesn't happen every time, but it's a great indicator that is very, very reliable. Okay. So what I would do is I would have a stop loss, okay, of your entry point personally. Not financial advice, but you were in the green. Okay. You were in the green. So if you only bought 1 share, I'm not sure how many shares you bought or what position, but if you bought at 187, okay, I would have a stop loss back below this 218. Okay. And I personally, not financial advice as well, is I would trim if you have more than one share, or take a little bit off the top if you are pushing back up into this 260 level. Okay. Just recommendation. Why? Because we do have a gap fill, and you can see how there was some profit taking right back, and we could rotate back into this gap and pull all the way back down here to 218 and maybe back down into that 212. Right? We were in this balance range for a while right here. And what did I just say earlier about balance ranges? Balance ranges like to rotate back into the top of the range, and sometimes they like to rotate back into the bottom of the range, all the way back into the range, and then rotate back out of the range. Okay. Does that help, Stefan? Right? I'm trying to answer the question to the best of my ability, not just give you a generic answer. That's why I keep asking, clarity. So in summary, and this goes for everybody to help you out. When I think that's the hardest thing, or the most difficult thing, I think, when people are in shares and they're like, do I take profit or can it go higher? Like, I don't want to take it too early. Right? It's just have stop losses on. You can always re-enter. Just don't lose money. Right? Warren Buffett, especially in shares. Right? So keep your stop loss at break even and say, man, okay, cool. I guess I bought a little bit too late. I'm up 20%. Maybe I keep a 10%. I want to lock in 10%, Brian. Okay, cool. If you don't know how to set a stop loss, you can go watch my stop loss video on Robinhood. But if you're in shares, a stop loss just means set your order. You can set your stop order. Just say he bought shares at 210. He can set his stop order, right? I'd have to do the math at shares, stop me out, sell my shares, or sell one of my shares, two of my shares, whatever it might be, at 225. I entered at 210. I want to lock in some. If it pulls back to 225, take me out. I'll re-enter lower. That help? So it's more short term. Okay, if it's short term, then take your profit. Yeah, 10 veer. Yeah, take profit at maybe another 10%. See if you can get a 30% trade out of it in the short term, and then reassess when it drops back lower. Yeah, exactly. We're saying the same thing, Tanvir. I agree. So I like the 20% at all-time highs, and then 30% at all-time highs. I do not like trying to get greedy at all-time highs when you have uncharted territory. It's never been up here. You don't know where it's going necessarily. It's breaking new highs. It's already made a equivalent move. I really like back down here 144. It never really retested that level. And when you get on charts, that's when you really start to understand that, Brian, this CLS is never pulling back to 137. All right. All right. All right. So now SMCI is not a good example because, I thought SMCI was a fluke from the beginning. If you made money off SMCI, that's great. But this is a low volume squeeze, short squeeze all the way back up, and it was not warranted. They had a what is it called? Stock split. Right. So it went to $1,000+. Made money trading it, made good money trading SMCI. And now it pulled all the way back to a retest level of where? $35. Never fails. There's the retest level. It should have retested from the first. It should have never gone up to $1,000 from $350. It should have retested $350, pull back, slowly grind it up, and now it's back at $35. So I'm a huge proponent of the charts, no matter what company it is. Lulu. Now, tech companies, AI companies, I don't know if a bubble's going to pop, but NVDA, it's been stair-stepping very nicely. This pullback to 96 was beautiful, right? So I think NVIDIA is kind of back in where it should be. And I'm wrapped up here. You can see that trend line right there. It pulled back exactly where it should have. This was unwarranted going to 200 straight away. So that 150 pullback is going to be beautiful on NVIDIA. Even if it pulls back to 140, that'd be nice. But yeah. The charts are where the money's made. Snowflake. Just kind of scanning around. I think I'm good. Dr. Brian, could you please look at gold? Yeah. Yep. That's another thing. We talked about this last week. And what did we talk about, Tanvir? This breakout of 320, right? This breakout of 320 above this rising kind of bull flag right here. Talked about that breakout of 320. And it did exactly that. So what I'm looking at when I get new all-time highs like this, what Tanvir is asking is gold right here is breaking out. And he's also talking about it on the, we're looking at the futures market and also the Forex market. If I look at gold here, GC, he's talking about this 4,000 level, right? Gold going to 4,000, which I definitely could see, which would be right there. Okay. So now we just got to mark where the entry is going to be for that if you're buying shares or if you're trading it. So if you're in the futures market and you're trading GC or gold futures, I would look for some type of pullback, if possible, back into this 35.50, 35.60 level. I would keep a psych level of 3,600 just to mark it to see what it does at 3,600. It'll be right there. Okay, so it's got to hold that 3,600. Anytime I have a grind up like this on that trend line, I want to make sure it stays on that trend line. The moment it breaks that trend, it's coming back to my deeper level that I want at 35.50. Okay, so stair stepping. 3,600 is that psych level that we want to watch. Okay. Does that help, Tanvir? I like it at 4,000. It's just, it's made a massive move already. It's grinding, it's squeezing. People are putting themselves there. I think personally, this is just my opinion. Gold is, if many of my seasoned investors know, gold is a stable asset. People have been investing into gold for the last, I don't even want to give a time frame. I can say the last decade, 2 decades, 3 decades, 4 decades, so on and so forth. But more recently from, I would say this, where is it? Pandemic pullback or 2022 pullback? Right here in this consolidation, 2021, 2022. Do y'all remember when everyone was talking about like, better get some gold? Like it was talked about with my family, my parents, just friends of family, like, go buy some gold from Costco, go buy some gold, go buy some silver, go buy some gold, right? Get some gold bars. Right, that is a stable, very similar to kind of how the banking system is less trusted now. Is gold that's going to hold its value? It's not going anywhere. And also, I personally think the economy. There's no reason, in my opinion, that the stock market should be going this high. I'm just going to say that right now. There's no reason that the stock market should be squeezing even higher with. You can say whatever you want. I posted a video in my Discord about this, and there was a professor that was talking about it. I was like, I don't want to sound crazy here. I'm not trying to be some conspiracy theorist talking about another 2020s coming, but just put down in the chat below, like the market is irrational, but can anyone solidly tell me why in the world that the market is going higher when people can't find jobs? Right? The inflation rate, even though we are slowly decreasing, which Trump has done, right? Based on statistics, that the market has seen slower inflation from a Biden market. But if you go to the grocery store, it's like, the rates, the housing market, like tell me a rational reason. And that's what's more so concerning. So I'll keep writing day in and day out that we're bullish, but I still got my head on a swivel. Right? I still have my head on a swivel, and I don't know why. I don't know why my gut's telling me that with gold going higher, buying more crypto, buying more Bitcoin, people trusting the banks, less and less, moving into stable assets. Moving back, really, some people just moving back more into cash, right? So trying to keep liquid cash on hand and saying, this is just boomer money. right? This is boomer money rotating. Am I talking crazy? Am I talking crazy? Y'all can tell me if I am. That's cool. But yeah, there's your answer, Tanvir. Yeah, the hopium of rate cuts. The hopium. I love that. Yeah, if we have rate cuts and they're the right rate cuts, then yeah, we'll go higher. Right? That FOMC meeting next week is going to be. I don't want to really be in any trades personally. I may take some lottos, but I don't want to be in any trades personally. If we get a deeper pullback going into FOMC next week, like if we get a weekly pullback this week, and I'm pretty much done, everybody. So if we get a weekly pullback, if you have any final questions for me, let me know. If we have a weekly pullback this week, cool. I like that dip buy, right? If we pull back NVDA down into 160, 150, something like that, with CPI and PPI, great. But anytime in the next week, it's going to be so much hype. And y'all know I don't like to be a part of the hype. I'd rather react to the hype. So if everyone's expecting a rate cut, cool. Well, how much? Right? Remember the last time we had a rate cut? I don't know if some of y'all remember. Last time we had a rate cut, and we had a positive reaction, and then we immediately sold off, right? Or pulled back, I should say. So I just got my head on a swivel. Yeah, Palantir shorting. Yep. MSTR shorting. Yep. If I have any newcomers or new people that are still on here and you're like, Brian, this was great, I'm still a little bit confused, please let me know in the chat if you're able to, and just say, hey, this was helpful. I'm new. I always welcome anyone that's new to this because it can get very stock talky, when we're like, yeah. You're like, I don't know what he's talking about. I don't know why they're so excited or concerned, right? Yeah, I think we'll still have a push in the end of the year. Yep. Finish off the year strong, just like every year. I just want that big pullback. Cool. All right. Well, peace, love, and blessings to you all. Going once, going twice. Tanvir, shout out to you. I appreciate your participation and all the good things that you have to say. I appreciate you. Stefan, I appreciate you. Chris, thank you so much for the agreements. Let's see, anyone else? Digital Harmony, thank you so much. What's going on? Trent, everyone in Leverage University members, if you are still hanging out with me, that's cool. If you're watching the game, that's cool too. If you're going to rewatch later. All right. If I can do anything or improve this, let me know. Hey, Brian, do you have I don't want to join the full Discord. Do you have I just want your ideas. So if you can just chart for me, I'd be willing to pay a little bit for that. Or if you have a section of your Discord where I can't jump into live trading, but I would like to have just your chart analysis, please let me know that, because I do give trade ideas every single week. So you can see here, I do have some people that just take my trade ideas and they also jump into live trading, but I understand that some people may need, something different. So I'm always open on the trade floor here. Do you see my trade ideas? I give out trade ideas where you can look at them like, man, he charted out. I like that. All right. So there's Hood, gave that pullback trade idea. There's AMD, there's ARM. I like that. There's Hood again. Coin, Connell, that's holding, starting to turn a bear flag. NVIDIA was watching that bear flag. If you see right there at 170, pull down to right where the target is right there at 164. What else? Walmart, congratulations to Caleb. He caught this Walmart trade, called that out. Here's how it looked before. Right there, sitting at 95, rotating back up, back to 100. Didn't we just look at Walmart a minute ago of where it's sitting at 100? SoFi, still watching that. So this is a channel in our community that's available. But if you'd like, just let me know how we can improve. I'll check the comments, respond, so on and so forth, and we'll go from there. All right, everybody. Until next time, have a nice weekend or week. Trade safely. I'll see y'all in the Discord tomorrow morning for live trade.